Hey, have you ever felt like you're just running on a hamster wheel? You're working harder than ever, but you're not actually getting any closer to your goals? Well, today, we're going to unpack a framework that might just change everything for you. It's all about how to achieve more by, believe it or not, doing less. Let's dive in. Right? It's this crazy paradox. You're putting in the hours, you're hustling, you're doing everything you're supposed to do, but you're just spinning your wheels. Sometimes it even feels like you're going backward. It is one of the most frustrating feelings in the world. But what if the problem isn't your effort? What if it's your entire approach?
So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to tackle this hard work paradox. Then, we'll get into the 3 hidden forces that are shaping your success or your failure every single day. After that, we'll talk about how to actually harness these forces, align your own inner game, and then, the best part, I'll give you a step-by-step action plan to put it all into practice.
Yeah, so we're all told the same thing, right? Just do it. Take massive action. But what if that's only half the story? I mean, what if acting without understanding the bigger picture is like trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle, but you're missing like half the pieces? Okay, here it is. This is the fundamental mistake that so many of us make. We act like we're the only player on the field. But the reality is, we live in a world with nearly 8 billion other people, and every single one of them has their own goals, their own desires, their own agendas. So every move we make, it sends ripples through this incredibly complex system.
So what happens when our actions actually hit the real world? Well, it's like dropping a stone into a pond. Every single action, no matter how small, even just sitting on your couch, creates these ripples. It generates a response. In fact, every action you take unleashes 3 powerful, invisible forces.
The first force is what we call counteraction. Think of it like Newton's third law, but for your life. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So, let's say you decide you want to go to the movies with your friends tonight. Well, the force of counteraction might be your spouse saying, "Actually, honey, I was kind of hoping we could just have a quiet dinner at home." That's direct pushback against your goal.
But at the exact same time, your action also creates the second force, assistance. These are the forces that actually line up with your goal and help you move it forward. So in our movie night example, this could be your kids hearing the idea and shouting, "Yay, movies, let's go!" See? Now they're a force that's actively supporting your plan. And then we have the third, and you could argue the most powerful force of all, interaction. You can think of these as the undecided voters, right? The neutral parties. They're not for you, and they're not against you. At least, not yet. In our family movie night debate, this might be your parents, just watching from the sidelines. Their opinion could be the one thing that tips the scales and decides the entire outcome. So, here's the crucial point. Your goal isn't just about pushing your own idea forward. It's really about managing these 3 forces. Your strategy is to amplify your assistance, you got to neutralize the counteraction, and, most importantly, you have to win over those neutral forces of interaction. That is where the real game is won. Okay, so we've identified the 3 forces, but here's where it gets really interesting. What if, instead of just fighting against these forces, we could actually get them to work for us? This is where we shift from using brute force to using elegant strategy. And this quote from Sun Tzu just nails it. He wasn't saying that generals shouldn't be prepared to fight. He was saying that the best general aligns all the circumstances so powerfully in their favor. They gather so much support, they understand the terrain so perfectly that the enemy just looks at the situation and sees no point in even starting the battle. They're defeated before the first sword is even drawn.
This brings us to a pretty radical idea, the 80-20 rule of effortless success. What if you could achieve your goals with only 20% of the effort you're currently putting in? Well, the secret is to create a situation where 80% of the work is being done for you by the external forces that you've managed to align in your favor. See, your job isn't to row the boat. It's to steer it into the strongest current.
Just think of it like this. Imagine you're in a boat on a river. The hard worker tries to row upstream, right, against the current. They're paddling like mad, 24/7, sweating and straining, but they're stuck in the exact same spot. The strategic person, though, they're not focused on rowing. They're focused on steering. They use just enough energy to guide their boat into the strongest current that's already flowing in their direction. And then they just let the river do 80% of the work for them. It's the same thing with fishing, right? You have one fisherman who just shows up, throws a line in the water, and hopes for the best. But the strategic fishermen, they've already done the real work before they even got there.
They've studied the weather, the barometric pressure, the kind of fish they're after, the exact bait that fish prefers, and they chose a spot where that fish is abundant. Their success isn't luck. It's the result of aligning with all of the external circumstances. Now, before we can even begin to manage the external world, we have to get our own internal world in order. Because if you are not fully 100% aligned with your own goal, you become your own worst enemy.
Oh, this is such a critical point. Your rational mind can set a goal like, I want to be a successful entrepreneur. But if your subconscious mind is in the back whispering, what if you fail? You're not good enough for this. It's way too risky. Well, then your own subconscious becomes the very first and honestly the most powerful force of counteraction you have to overcome. You're fighting a battle inside your own head before you even step out the door.
Let's look at this example of an educational business. What's the true intention? Is it to earn money from teaching people? If that's the focus, all your decisions are about extraction. But what if you shift your intention to teaching people and earning money as a result? Can you feel the difference? One is about taking, the other is about giving. That subtle internal alignment changes everything about how you act and how the world responds to you.
So, you ready to actually put this powerful framework into action? Good. Here is a simple 4-step process you can use for pretty much any goal starting today.
Okay, first, you clarify. You get brutally honest with yourself about what your true internal intention is. Second, you assess. You look at the outside world and you analyze all those forces: counteraction, assistance, and interaction. Third, you plan. You create a strategy that's specifically designed to leverage the helpful forces and neutralize the opposing ones. And only then, as the very final step, do you act.
And during that assessment phase, you gotta ask yourself these 3 critical questions. First, is this the right time? Launching a new ice cream shop in the middle of winter? Probably not the best idea. Second, am I in the right place? Trying to sell surfboards in a state with no coastline is likely a losing battle. And third, are the broader circumstances in my favor? If there's a huge economic downturn, it might not be the best moment to start a luxury brand. These questions force you to step back and actually see the whole board.
Ultimately, it all comes down to a choice between 2 paths. There's the Sisyphus path, which is what most people are on. Constantly fighting the world, always struggling, draining all their energy pushing a boulder uphill just to watch it roll back down. Or there's the strategic path. This is about aligning with the world, which leads to what feels like effortless progress, because you are leveraging a force so much greater than yourself. So if you take just one thing away from our time together, let it be this. The secret to achieving more with less effort isn't about rowing harder. It's about putting down the oars for a second, understanding the currents, and learning how to steer.
So here's my challenge to you. Think about your biggest goal, your most ambitious dream. Now, instead of asking, what do I need to do? Ask yourself a totally different question. Who or what is already moving in the direction I want to go, and how can I join them? Find that current and let it carry you to success.